So anytime you talk on the opportunity, talk to somebody who's doing it. What am I going to hate in this process? There's something that it's going to not be enjoyable and doable, right? Like I was just talking with one of my business partners, or so as more of a client, and he was getting the podcasting. I'm like, hey, you're going to have to show up every single week, right? Like it's fun when you have really fun guests, but what happens when you're like, oh, I have to do this again? Can you commit to that? Can you be consistent? Can you be 300 plus episodes like the way that we are? There's effort behind them, just like there's effort to becoming great.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Experiment Nation, Ruben Kanya here, your host in the lab with yours truly. It's been a while, but I'm coming with some heat. I recently had, it was a lovely weekend. We actually were on our vacation home with friends and family. We gathered because I was running the road race with my brother-in-law, and I got a few insights from there prior to the race and post the race that I thought would be helpful, or at least insightful for you in your current journey, because it is midway through August and we already, that means we are literally on the second half of the year, whether you like it or not. This is reality. 2025 is halfway already done. We know this. So what can we do with the experiments that we have facing us? And I think this is important because there's so much, it's changing very quickly. But some fundamentals, as a matter of fact, my mentor says fundamentals always and principles always stay the same, regardless. And so I wanted to go over this principle that I thought was insightful. So I recently ran a 10K here in Falmouth Road Race. It was great. Had the train leading up to it, which is nothing different than I'm used to because I've been a student that had to be, well, I'm very coachable. And it's something that I seek coaches, seek mentors in anything that I do, because that's how I grew up. Grew up playing sports, grew up playing basketball all the way up to college, and you got to be coachable if you want to play at a high level. Those I know a lot of people are more talented than me, who had bad attitudes or not coachable, who didn't go as far. Now, I didn't make it to the league or anything, so it's nothing special. But playing up to college, there's a level of persistence, discipline, showing up, taking feedback, swallowing your ego, being a team player, not putting yourself first. I mean, there's a lot of, uh, uh, I think, fundamentals that you learn that are applicable in your life, and I see that it's helped me transition into business. Uh, but with that said, I want to say something. So I want to share with you guys an insight that I had. So I've never run a 10K before. I'm not much of a runner. I don't like running per se. I like running, but not the way runners run. Runners run themselves to the ground. Uh, and if you're a runner, I'm just saying I'm not like a crazy, like I don't know that I'll do a marathon. Not because I don't think I can do it, but because I don't have interest for it. And it's hard on the knees and all that good stuff. I like explosiveness. Love playing basketball, like I said. Love playing tennis, explosive sports, explosive training. Mind you, I was a trainer. I've been a personal trainer for a long time. So I love like the physical demand of something. It's just like for training for a 10K, I had to run for like an hour, and I'm like, it gets pretty boring at some point. Even though I'm listening to audibles and all that stuff and audiobooks, etc. So but it was a great experience, and my brother-in-law pulled me into it. Something I really wanted to do. There's definitely a push there. Definitely lots of challenges, but I want to talk about this. It was a preparation. So when you're gonna do something for the first time, having someone who's been there. So my brother-in-law, he ran the New York Marathon. Shout out to Hug, and the preparation it took for that. Just seeing him prepare for that, huge kudos. I mean, the guy, it was phenomenal to see. That's like top percentile stuff. But when I'm getting insights for training, I got it from someone who ran a New York City Marathon when I'm running a 10K. I always been very coachable. I think I've mentioned that. I had to restart this video a few times, so if I'm repeating myself, excuse me because we had some technical difficulties. But I said what I was saying is I'm coachable, and so I got training material from him. I also ran alongside him for a little bit, but then obviously he took off because towards like the third mile because he's experienced, and he kind of knows. And so that's what you try to do. You try to emulate. Okay, if someone's done a 26-mile run. This is a 7-mile 10K, right? So what can I learn uh, for preparation and how should I be preparing? What insights can I get? What do you what is it? How are you training, right? What are you doing? How early should I train? When should I train? What should I be doing? Like you get all these insights from someone who's done the thing that you want to do. And I think it's just such a good reminder because, we go to battle sometimes and, the people who are prepared are the ones that come out on top, right? And I will say one thing that I found very interesting too, that I really want to share. This is prior to the race. So prior to the race, it's preparation. It's the person that inspires you. Now, mind you, I wouldn't have done this without being inspired to do it by someone who's done it. So it's the same thing in your lab. It's so important to be in proximity of people that have done the thing you want to do. Now, I might be contradicting myself because I just said I don't like running, but then I got pulled into it. It's not that I don't like running. I'll do a 10K, but I don't know that I'll do. And again, I'm in a season of my life where I don't see that as an interest. Maybe later on my palate changes, and then I do want to do it, and that's completely okay as well to change your mind. Uh, you know, but what I'm saying is I was inspired and persuaded because he said, "Hey, you should run this with me," and I'm like, "All right, fine." Just like someone said, "Hey, maybe you should start this temp housing business," or "Hey, maybe you should get into this." Like we get inspired, right? None of our thoughts are all of our thoughts. We get inspiration from people, insights. Maybe it might be social media. I think social media is good in that sense to kind of expand your world. It's not all negative. It's like, oh, this is what's possible, right? I think that's how we got pulled into a lot of stuff. Oh, short-term rental, this is what's possible just with one property. Oh, insurance housing, this is what's possible. So first you get expired. So it's important that you're following the people that inspire you, not just to consume content, but to get educated, to get inspired, to also get insight as to what is actually the thing that they're doing. Because um, if you are not ever exposed to it, you might not even know that it's possible. So therefore, when you're exposed to something that you're interested in and you dive a little bit deeper, you're like, oh, this is possible. I can do this. So in that case, there's the inspiration prior to the race. Then there's the training before that. It's almost like one of the other episodes I talk about. There's like this unconscious um, not unconscious competence, but like the unknown unknowns, right? Every opportunity sounds good until you figure out that everything takes work, then it's no longer so fun. That's kind of like it, right? So it's important for you to identify what those things are. Okay, great. Yeah, you want to run a 10K. What is it going to take to train? How often? For how long, right? I think these things matter, right? So anytime you talk on the opportunity, talk to somebody who's doing it. What am I going to hate in this process? There's something that it's going to not be enjoyable and doable, right? Like I was just talking with one of my business partners, or as more of a client, and he was getting into podcasting. I'm like, hey, you're gonna have to show up every single week, right? Like it's fun when you have really fun guests, but what happens when you're like, oh, I have to do this again? Can you commit to that? Can you be consistent? Can you be 300 plus episodes like the way that we are? There's effort behind that, just like there's effort to becoming great. And so it's really important that we understand and we really level set. Do our be, do, have. Are we being the person that's willing to do the thing to then have the thing? Are we being the person that shows up every day? Are we being the person that's willing to train for a 10K or a marathon? Are we being the person that's willing to be the CEO of a company, right? What are they doing? What is the sacrifice, right? That is required. All right. So I think that's important when you're revisiting your goals. Like, what is the being that you need to do and the being the person you need to be to do the thing? To have the courage to do the thing, to have the courage to train, etc., to have the courage to show up, even when you don't want to, right? Even when you're not in a good mood, right? Like all these things matter. So training was interesting because you always train, right, to like get into simulate like what you're gonna experience, but then also the in-person event is gonna be different. But here's what, so I want to transition. That was the training part, right? Now I want to transition to the actual race. Actual race with the ambiance and the hype, super cool. But what I found super interesting, and I saw kind of an analogy in life, is anytime I would race, I would always find a target. Like, okay, I'm going for that guy in that hat. And what would be so interesting is you have that target, and that target is far, and you track it. And when you focus in on it, you actually get close to that target. Sometimes the target feels like it's going and it's going, and the challenge is like it's making you look towards the thing, right? And what's fascinating about that is like when you pick a target, if you're a runner, you know what I'm talking about. I used to do this when I was in New York all the time. Like I'd be like, oh, this guy has a nice pace. Let me just follow this person. As in try to keep up with them because they're running as well, and I like their pace. I want to challenge. Therefore, now I'm pacing against them. And they don't know it, right? You're not being like a creep, right? Especially in public. But you're like, someone's pacing well. So you pace them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pace them and see if I can beat them or keep up with their pace. I've had people whose paces were just so fast. I'm like, my goal is to just keep keep up with their pace. So I did that a few times, and then what happens is sometimes I surpass them, which then meant kind of almost like a goal. Like you set a goal as a target. And then when you meet the goal, you don't just say, okay, I'm retired, like I end the race, like I got to my target. You then set a new goal. And that's a new target. And that's almost kind of like there's such an interesting dynamic of like life because it's like you pick a target, you reach the target, you then set a new target, and life goes on. The only thing is sometimes what happens is people don't take and celebrate that target. Now, in the middle of a race, which is interesting in life, some will say, well, you don't have time to celebrate. You got to have the new target.
Experiment Nation, you've heard me talk about how multiple investors across the nation are landing these lucrative midterm rental insurance contracts by making these small tweaks on the branding and marketing side, especially if you're an existing short-term rental operator. There is a quick and easy shift that you can make with the ride guide in place. And because we've launched a 2-day boot camp that not everyone could attend in real time, I've put together a recording where you can get all the materials and all the guides to focus on rebranding either your short-term rental business or your current midterm rental business so that you can actually have the insurance companies reach out to you. And then day 2 is if you want to actually play offense, how you can reach out to them by listing on the right platforms, etc. If you're looking to get this MTR bootcamp so that you can start optimizing and you can start receiving these lucrative contracts that again provide less headaches, less turnovers, unlike the Airbnb space, you can start receiving inquiries today by having the right guide in place. So please go to experimentrealestate.com/MTR bootcamp or click the link in the bio to make sure you get your hands on this midterm rental insurance bootcamp to fast track your way into landing these lucrative insurance contracts the exact same ways multiple investors have taken advantage of this unknown and untapped niche within the midterm rental umbrella.
Now, I think it's important through our race that we acknowledge the fact that we met the target. Could you throw a big party and then that would deter you from being able to win the actual race 100%? Can you actually celebrate until the race is over? Well, it depends because when is the race really over? Is it ever over? In this case, yes, there's a finish line. But sometimes in our experiments, we don't know where the finish line is. As a matter of fact, the finish line can continue to just increase as we raise our stakes and raise the commitment or raise the new target, right? And so it kind of almost made me think, okay, you need to be appreciative. But another thing about being appreciative, the first thing that came to mind is like the fact that you're setting a target and then you nail it is the reward, right? Is the fact that you said you were going to do the thing, you did it. That felt good. And that should feel good. And that should be a nice measuring stick. But sometimes keeping in mind that that target, sometimes it's the fact that you're going for it that matters as well. And I'm not here to give you everybody gets a medal kind of discussion because I don't think that either. I think there's a winner and a loser. But I think in your goals, it's really important that you identify these milestones. and try to target them, right? Nail them. So that's one thing. So I feel that having a target, you know, asking a question, who is your target? Who is the person you're trying to be on pace with? Right? Because I think that matters. If you pick someone that's slow and it's easy, great. But if you pick someone that's fast, do you by default get pushed faster? I'll tell you for sure. That's what happened to me because I picked this gentleman. Shout out to Corey if you're listening to this somehow, some way. And I was pacing with him. And then we actually just ended up chit chatting because we started to see we were outpacing each other back and forth. And now it became kind of a game. And I know there was multiple times where I wanted to give up, but because I had made this commitment and I actually had a verbal conversation with him while I was talking, that it almost felt like we had to just be neck and neck. Um, and it was so interesting because he pushed me, and I'm sure I probably pushed him as well because he was behind me, then he was in front of me, behind me, in front of me. He actually ended up beating me, for lack of better words, because I was tracking behind him. Towards the end, I was gunning for him on his left shoulder, but and it is what it is. Uh, but towards the finish line, I remember there was an officer that was on the left side that if I would have kept going, I'd have ran him over. So then, of course, I readjusted and went behind him, but we were neck and neck, right? And at the end of the day, it was a great run, but it made me really think that who is your Corey, right? Who is that person that you're trying to pace with? And the more that person elevates themselves, the more they elevate you by default if you're a competitive human being. And if you're a competitive human being, you know that that's a thing that you are a competitive person, then who you are actually going to try to pace yourself with or track or get inspired by matters, right? And it really matters that you would hang out with them. Like Corey's a cool dude. I spoke with him for a couple minutes and, it was a good vibe. I hang out with that dude and he pushed me. Now, who is the person in your endeavor, whether it's real estate or not, whether it's a very specific niche, that you would spend the time with so that they can by default elevate you? Because you're forced to. You almost have to. How can you not elevate? Right? How can their fast time now become your normal and your normal becomes their fast, vice versa? However you want to look at it. So that made me think during the race, like, do you have someone you're trying to pace towards and who is it? Because that matters and that person will help elevate you. And then, so that was a big one, right? Because it really made me think of business and how you get mentors uh, and how they've gone through that path before. They've either raced, and in my case, it was my brother-in-law who had raced before, and he was way ahead of us. Like, he was like a minute ahead. Now, granted, some might say that's not that far, but it makes a difference when you look at the Olympics. People are winning by milliseconds. Kudos to him. But he does this. This is what he does. And so, with him being in the race and being one of my pacers, I was pacing towards him until it was like he was gone at one point. I'm like, dude, all right, but I was still pacing. I was still looking for him. But then I found a new guy. And what is interesting is sometimes the person that is way outreach and they can't help you along the way, but someone 5 steps ahead of you can. So that's a good reminder. The importance of picking the right mentors, the importance of surrounding yourself in the right environment is key. And in this case, it's an environment of runners who do this. And I was just speaking within my other brother-in-law that he was talking about how, like, there's a difference between when you train by yourself and when you're training an environment or actually running the race in an environment with other people running the race towards the same objective. Now that is what is called a team. Now it's not, it's to me, right? It's we're specifically talking about the environment, but there's also something about if you're not running the race alone, right? Like a relay race, right? Where someone gets the last leg, the fastest person does, and maybe the lead gets it. If you get your own board, then there's the middle, then there's the handoff, then there's staying in line, etc. If you've ever run track, that's what you're being passed the baton and running a relay race is very different than running one by yourself. There's folks involved, there's dependencies, there's trust, there's communication. So it just makes you think that there's so many principles that are the same in sports and military and whatever it is that align with business, real estate, etc. These same principles that start with you will then reflect how the impact that it has externally, right? You have to start internally before you can see the external. And so Be Do Have was such a good reminder, as always. It's one of my favorites episodes that or at least principles that I talk about. But it was also very prevalent in this weekend's race because of how we got there first on the training, the day of the training, who I'm pacing towards, and then in the end, having my brother-in-law support me after he won and he was just celebrating me at the finish line. Those are the kind of people that you want in your life, right? When you're running your marathon, when you're running your 10K, when you're running your experiments. As a matter of fact, I can think of I can't think of an area of my life where I didn't have a mentor where I got results very quickly and my biggest results, right? Whether it was me playing college ball or me starting my business and being inspired to do so in a short-term rental, and then going to temporary housing niche. Even right now, trying to as we're expanding our temporary housing brand as a temporary housing provider nationwide, the people who are on my team and the people who are rooting for me and the people who are mentoring me are people who have done it themselves and they've been there and they're doing it at scale. Where my best day is their worst day. That is the kind of people, sort of environment that you want to be with. And I wanted to encourage you, if you're not seeing any traction, right, in your current experiments, there's two things. One, either remember, keep in mind that there is this invisible work that is happening behind the results. First, the internal work needs to happen, or you're just planting the seed and you haven't seen the plant just sprout yet, right? Very similar to the bamboo, the roots need to go deep down first in the opposite direction that it needs to grow. There's that, or you just don't have the right mentor. You don't have the right land to grow the tree. You don't have the right environment to plant the seed. And or you're also not watering it every day. There's a caveat. That'll be the third caveat, right? So you could have the right fertilizer, you could have the right soil, you could have the right seed, and then you don't plant it every day, and guess what? You don't get the results. Or you could have an abundance of water, you're watering every single day, but you don't have fertilized soil, and you don't have good soil at all, and you're watering it, and it doesn't grow well. Or you just are doing the right things, right soil, right a seed, you have enough water, but you only started watering for a week and you expect it to have grown by 10 feet. You actually don't even see any green, and therefore you're going to give up. Environment matters because someone who's a farmer can say, hey, this is how long you can expect it to take. Don't give up. Or this is the type of fertilizer that I would use. Or this is watering too much. You're watering too much, right? You need to wait, right? These are all insights that you get from that I got from running a 10K that I want to share with you. And another thing too, I think I talk a lot about environment. I think what matters. Recently, we had a meetup in MTR pop-up meetup in Atlanta, Georgia, and I think if AI is at the top of your conversation on a weekly basis, I think there's something about revisiting the natural components in your business that are irreplaceable by AI to actually make now genuine conversations or genuine touches a a almost like a luxury, right? To receive a personal video that is not AI, but that's from a human being thanking a customer, right? I just got off a call with one of our relationship account managers and just said thank you. Was not an automated email, was not a template, was just a call, say thank you. That call ended up to 30 minutes. That call ended up to building another building block in our relationship, which probably lead to more leads as she's actually going to send more to us. But it's just a relationship. That's all it is. And asking the other person what they're most excited about, when it gets them out of bed. Uh, People love to hear themselves talk. Um, Getting into a genuine relationship building aspect without automations, because anybody can, spit out an email using ChatGPT or AI or anything of that nature. And there is something special about seeing a typo. There is something personal about getting a personal note. There is something special about being in an environment, curating an environment for people to meet, because people are dying for that human touch and human interaction in the digital age, in the age of AI, automated intelligence, automation intelligence. So with that said, keep that in mind in your experiments as you're thinking about growing. Keep in mind that there's something special about not automating. And keep in mind that that might be something that most of us are now craving for because there's so much of it that we'll become numb to it. So keep that. The last thing we don't want to be numb to is our goals. So make sure you realign with the right person, with the right mentor, the right team, the right environment to keep you going on your path and in your journey towards Q3 and Q4 of 2025 as you're listening to this. But the same principles apply regardless as to when you're listening to this. Just a reflective touch point. If you want to connect with me and my team, we are on a temporary housing mission to serve as many landlords as possible to land lucrative and contracts to increase their occupancy and profitability. It's a win-win for us because the more we educate homeowners how to do this, the more they can become part of our network and benefit from the contracts that you receive and demands so that you can be the supply to our demand. If that's you and you want to connect, want to understand how we can work together, there's multiple ways depending on where you are. I don't have a cookie cutter approach. So I have a very detailed ironed out tier structure that I use depending on where you are at in your journey that I really recommend you to tap into by going to experimentrealestate.com/connect. You'll see tier 1 resources, which are completely free, including my 1,000+ videos on YouTube and my tier 2 courses, which are entry-level programs, and then tier 3, which is our advanced. You want someone to hold your hand, VIP, and serve you and give you the opportunity to learn how to fish yourself and be able to partner with other fishers, those who fish, I guess, who can also collaborate. Is it fishermen? I'm not going to let this one go. So that you can collaborate together. We can collaborate together with respect to the demand that you will get for your own respective business, but on the back end be tied to a collective database that can serve. As multiple people get demand, you will also benefit from also getting a demand in your area, and that's what we're trying to build. It fires me up to be able to educate homeowners who then come back and say my life has completely changed because of this one thing that I learned or this thing that I did or this person that I met. Forget me. It's about the community. So with that said, if you want to connect, go to experimentrealestate.com/connect to see how I can help you and my community embark on this temporary housing journey, aka the midterm rental insurance B2B side, business to business, where we again strive on having a longer occupancy, more profitability with less headaches. We'll see you Q3, Q5. Stay blessed by the best.
Experimentation. I believe there are 2 critical components that will help you achieve your goals very quickly and succeed. Number 1, it's information like this that you received on a show, in an episode, and content that you can find on my YouTube channel or anybody's channel. And then there's a community. And the way we've been able to expedite our process, the way people in our community, people that we consult, mastermind members, whoever, they get the information on an episode like this, but then they also have a support, whether it's me guiding them or being guided through a community. There is an opportunity for you listening to be able to expedite your process or even expedite your results that you're seeking by being part of the community. If that is what you're interested in, we at Experiment Nation happen to have a community devoted to helping maximize your occupancy and your profitability altogether, regardless of which market that you are in. And for that reason, you have an opportunity where you can go to experimentrealestate.com/submit if you're looking to work in an environment that can help you prosper faster. Call out any areas that you might not be familiar in, especially the blind spots. That's where a guide comes in hand, and I would be a pleasure and honor to be your guide. But in order to make sure you're a good fit, make sure you go to experimentrealestate.com/submit so my team can go ahead and take it and see if you're a good fit to join
the mastermind and the multiple programs that we have. In addition to that, I'm also now a YouTube partner, which means that I want to give you more access to information, more access to Q&As, more access to the questions that actually come out of our mastermind that help people expedite the process. We've seen people get anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 to even $7,000 a month net on just one door by applying the strategies that we use by working with corporations and furnished accommodation in a very strategic way. So if you're interested, make sure you also subscribe, because I'm going to have different tiers that's on YouTube now that we've become YouTube partner to continue to be the bridge to your success in your lab. And your lab means your life, your goals, or wherever you're trying to head. So make sure you also hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/real estate experiment. We'll be there. You can also look us up at Midterm Rental Insurance Experiment. We will be there. Make sure you hit the subscribe, because that's when you'll know the tiers that are available to you that make sense for you in your marketplace for your results. Remember, you're only one experiment away. Let's build.